Sarvepi eta yagnavido yajnak shapita kalmasa yajna shishtam rita bhujo yanti brahma sanatanam. Translation. All these performers who know the meaning of sacrifice become cleansed of sinful reactions, and having tasted the nectar of the results of sacrifices, they advance towards the supreme eternal atmosphere. Purport. Vaishnavi Mataji, can you kindly scroll down? Thank you, Mataji.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
From the foregoing explanation of different types of sacrifice, namely sacrifice of one's possessions, study of the Vedas or philosophical doctrines, and performance of the yoga system, it is found that the common aim of all is to control the senses. Sense gratification is the root cause of material existence. Therefore, unless and until one is situated in a platform apart from sense gratification, there is no chance of being elevated in the eternal platform of full knowledge, full bliss, and full life. This platform is in the eternal atmosphere or Brahman atmosphere. All the above mentioned sacrifices help one to become cleansed of all sinful reactions of material existence. By these advancement in life, not only does one become happy and opulent in this life, but also at the end he enters into the eternal kingdom of God, either merging into the impersonal Brahman or associating with the supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Yes, so Lord Krishna is describing different processes of sacrifice. And as described here, the purpose of sacrifice is purification of one's existence. By getting rid of our sinful reactions, then we can actually purify ourselves. And in order to get rid of our sinful reactions, we have to control the senses. That's very important for us in everything that we do. We have to learn to control the senses. If we cannot control the senses, then we will perform acts against the scriptures. In other words, we will engage in sinful activities. And sinful activities are the cause of distress. Oh, just recently I got one mail from Sri Devi Gaurangi, and she was asking me about the cause of our sickness, the cause of our illness. Is it due to our offenses? Well, yes, you could say it's due to offenses, because any act which is of sense, an act for sense gratification, then this is an offense to Lord Krishna, because the senses are given to us by the grace of Krishna. And the senses are meant to be used for the pleasure of Krishna. This body is also meant to be used for the service of Lord Krishna. But if we use this body and senses for our own sense gratification, then this is not pleasing to Krishna. In other words, it becomes offensive. And the results of offenses is that we get reactions, the sinful reactions. And sinful reactions will come in different ways. For example, illness. Other ways sinful reactions come. We may have economic problems. That's also sinful reactions. We can see how our whole planet is suffering at this time due to sinful reactions, economic problems, economic crisis all over the planet, creating a lot of unrest, a lot of poverty. And these are just due to our sinful reactions, our offenses, or our acts against the scriptures. So when we perform sacrifice, Lord Krishna mentions we can sacrifice possessions, or we may perform the sacrifice of knowledge. In other words, we cultivate knowledge of the Vedas, the Vedic scriptures. And we can also perform yoga and meditation. So these different activities help to destroy sinful reactions, and they save us from suffering in the material world. So sacrifice is very important. We should all be willing to perform some sacrifice. And what sacrifice can we do in the Kali Yuga? Well, everyone can do Sankirtan. Harinam Sankirtan is the ultimate sacrifice in the Kali Yuga. You go out and chant Hare Krishna, or you give the holy name to people, or we distribute books to people. Somehow or other, we introduce them to Krishna consciousness. That is Sankirtan. That is a very powerful sacrifice and very purifying. Okay, any question? In the past, people would give charity to purify themselves. That's also a sacrifice. You give your wealth. But in this Kali Yuga, we don't have much wealth to give. So Prabhupada explains it's difficult to give money, so we just have to give prasadam. If you can distribute prasadam, distribute food to people, that's a very great sacrifice also, and very purifying. All right, any questions? Everyone agree? So today, of course, you have the India festival in Geneva, and Vaishnavi Maharaji is going to be giving the holy name and giving prasadam, letting people taste prasadam, a chance to give them some Krishna consciousness. It's a sacrifice. It's a yagya. Okay, any other question? Any question, anybody? Any comment? No? Okay, we can go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yeah, sorry, Guru Maharaj, just a minute. The other sharing screen got locked out. Okay, sorry for the delay. 4.31, Nitya, do you want to read this?
Yes. Nayam loko asti ayajnashya kuto anya kuru sattama. O best of the Guru dynasty, without sacrifice, one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next? Purport. Whatever form of material existence one is in, one is invariably ignorant of its real situation. In other words, existence in the material world is due to the multiple reactions to our sinful lives. Ignorance is the cause of sinful life. and the sinful life is the cause of one's dragging on in material existence. The human form of life is the only loophole by which one may get out of this entanglement. The Vedas therefore give us a chance for escape by pointing out the path of religion, economic comfort, regulated sense gratification, and at last the means to get out of the miserable condition entirely. The path of religion or the different kinds of sacrifice recommended above automatically solves our economic problems. By performance of yagna, we can have enough food, enough milk, etc. Even if there is a so-called increase of population. When the body is fully supplied naturally, the next stage is to satisfy the senses. The Vedas prescribe, therefore, sacred marriage for the regulated sense gratification. Thereby, one is gradually elevated to the platform of release from material bondage, and the highest perfection of liberated life is to associate with the Supreme Lord. Perfection is achieved by performance of yagna, sacrifice, as described above. Now, if a person is not inclined to perform yagna according to the Vedas, how can he expect a happy life even in this body? And what to speak of another body on another planet? There are different grades of material comforts in different heavenly planets, and in all cases, there is immense happiness for person engaged in different kinds of yagna. But the highest kind of happiness that a man can achieve is to be promoted to the spiritual planets by the practice of Krishna consciousness. A life of Krishna consciousness is therefore the solution to all the problems of the material existence. Hare Krishna.
So Prabhupada has given a very nice purport here. It's very clear. If we do Krishna consciousness, this is the ultimate sacrifice, and it saves us from all suffering. Material existence will always be some problems, there'll be some difficulties. But if we do yajna, we do make some sacrifices, then that can save us from a lot of suffering. And the ultimate sacrifice is the sacrifice for the pleasure of Krishna. We say yagna vai Vishnu, right? We should do the sacrifice for the pleasure of Lord Vishnu. So we have to understand ignorance is the cause of our sinful desires. And when we have sinful desires, then we act in sinful ways. And when we act in sinful ways, we bring suffering on ourselves. The root cause of our suffering is ignorance. And because of ignorance, we may do offenses, we do things which are not prescribed in the scriptures. So we have to be very conscious and careful. People should read the scriptures. And generally, people are lazy. They don't want to read the scriptures. They just want to watch television, watch movies, read newspapers. Ask them to read a little book. Oh, no. They won't make that sacrifice. So people have to understand what is real happiness. Real happiness comes from the soul. When we use our soul in the service of Krishna, then that is actual happiness. But if we try to ourselves to break into the school and to the school campus and to the school program, then it will not be appreciated. So we have to respect what people are doing and at the same time give them that independence. If people want to know what's the proper use of human life, then we can teach them. So sense gratification is allowed in the Vedas. You have to know what is proper and what is not. Just like association with the opposite sex, it's not wrong, but it's proper in marriage. And without marriage, then it's not proper. So we have to be guided by the scriptures. Marriage makes the relationship sacred. So we have to learn how to live in this world. The scriptures, the Vedas are there to guide us, to tell us what we can do and what we can't do. We cannot just simply say, I didn't know. Ignorance is no excuse. So we have to be very careful and conscious. So happiness is everywhere, but suffering is also everywhere too. Happiness in the material world is a very relative thing. What may be happiness today is suffering the next day. Okay, any question?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, I have one little question. Indra is responsible for the rain, but who is responsible for the snow? Is it also Indra?
Who is responsible for the what?
Snow.
Snow.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
yes, snow also comes from Indra. Yeah, snow is also water. It's just water which is frozen, right? When the rain freezes, when the conditions become cold enough, then it becomes snow. Instead of rain, you get snow. So Indra is also there. Yeah.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Thank you.
So different kinds of yagya. But we say Kali Yuga, only one yagna. Harinam Sankirtan. That is the real yagna. The Sankirtan yagna. And it's the most enjoyable and it's the most purifying. But we must do it properly. Take shelter of the holy name by loud chanting. Right? Everyone chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Rama Rama,
Rama Rama,
Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare.
Okay. Well, go ahead. We can do one more verse.
Four 4.32. Does anyone wants to read this verse? Veda Priya Mataji, do you want to try?
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Evam bahu vidya yaknya vitata brahmano mukhe karma yan viditan sarvam evam nyatva vimokshashe. All these different types of sacrifice are approved by the Vedas, and all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated. Purport. Different types of sacrifice as discussed above are mentioned in the Vedas to suit the different types of worker. Because men are so deeply absorbed in the bodily concept, these sacrifices are so arranged that one can work either with the body, with the mind, or with the intelligence. But all of them are recommended for ultimately bringing about liberation from the body. This is confirmed by the Lord herewith from his own mouth. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you. So, different kinds of yagya, according to different kinds of people. There was a yagya for the brahmacharis, right? The brahmacharis, their yagya was hearing the Vedas, studying. And the yagna for the householders was controlling the senses. Different people would do different kinds of yagya. Some people, they will give their wealth away in charity. Maybe they have a lot of wealth, a lot of land or property or jewels, whatever. They like to give charity. So that's one kind of yagya. And other people, they're more inclined to the yagya of knowledge, cultivating knowledge, hearing the Vedas, studying scriptures, learning the different philosophies as described in the different scriptures. So some people are very much inclined to that aspect of knowledge. So it's mentioned that we can perform yagya, and we can do yagya we can do it with the body, or with the mind, or with words. Just like one can perform devotional service, one can do it with the body, with the mind, or with words. Or you can use all three, of course. We may do it mentally. We may not be doing any yagya with our hands or with our legs. We may not be actually working in the service of the Lord. But we can also do yagya with the body, with using our arms and legs and working. So some people do yagya with the tongue, just like chanting, going on Harinam Sankirtan, talking to people, telling them about Krishna. That's also a yagya. So Lord Krishna recommends everyone to do yagya. And ultimately, the goal is to get free from the body, to get liberated from the material body. Material body means senses. We have to purify the body. We have to purify the senses. We can do that through yagya, through proper yagya. So that yagya, of course, the yagya, the sacrifice is Krishna or Vishnu himself. He is the actual form of yagya. So whatever we're doing, it's actually for the pleasure of the Lord, either as Lord Rama or as Lord Vishnu, or it could also be we're doing yagya for Krishna. Some do for Vishnu, some do for Krishna. It's all yagya. Yagnavai Vishnu or Yagnavai Krishna, Sankirtan yagya, to get us free from the bodily attachment, to get us out the material world. All right, any questions? And we're coming up to another verse or two. We will hear the ultimate sacrifice, the sacrifice of transcendental knowledge. It's the greatest sacrifice. Sacrifice possessions is easier done than the sacrifice of transcendental knowledge. In other words, it's easier to give away wealth and to give away property than it is to cultivate the knowledge yourself. So we don't find so many people willing to study the philosophy and to understand it and to apply it, to put it into practice. That's the thing. People may read it, they may even study it, but they don't practice it. We find devotees, we find people coming and they take our courses here, they take the Bhakti Shastri course, but then they don't practice. They don't practice what they've been taught, what they've learned from the study of the scriptures. So it's a shame. So one has to not only study it, one has to apply it. There's Gyan and Vigyan, right? Gyan is the knowledge and Vigyan is the application of that knowledge. All right, so we'll stop here. Vaishnavi?
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Yeah, I think it's a good place to stop. Because
Yeah, yes.
and we will chant one round together.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Sridevi Mataji, do you have a question? You raised your hand.
Yes, for Guru Maharaj.
Okay. Yeah, Mataji, you can ask. No, you can ask, Mataji. No need to even raise your hands. Only few people in our group.
I just wanted Guru Maharaj, whether Guru Maharaj can explain a little bit more about the question I asked Guru Maharaj in the email. Just now Guru Maharaj mentioned about the question that I had asked. I would like to know whether Guru Maharaj can elaborate a little bit more about the answer to that question. The kinds of offenses that are involved, does it, and how does Srila Rupa Goswami mention in which particular book it's mentioned about how devotees fall ill or why the devotees fall ill, particularly about devotees. I think it's not about normal people who are not following Krishna consciousness, about devotees themselves, because we do see ourselves falling ill and devotees also falling ill. All around us, we are hearing about devotees falling ill, and we ourselves also have fallen ill. So I just wanted more clarification about that from Guru Maharaj.
Well, we have to understand that that's the nature of the material body. Also, it's not just a matter of offenses, but the fact that we have a material body means the material body is temporary. So it ages, and with age, then it deteriorates, and it's going to get sick, and we're all going to die one day, right? So it's just it's the nature of the material world. It's not necessarily that we can say due to offenses. Now, there were many great devotees, and they got sick. They get sick and they die, of course. Everybody who takes birth has to die. Lord Krishna says this in the Bhagavad Gita, one who has taken birth has to die, but then they will take birth again. So we have to understand that illness is not necessarily a sign of offenses. It may be, but not always. Now, Prabhupada, when Prabhupada was sick, for example, Prabhupada said that his illness was the result of accepting too many unqualified disciples. Prabhupada described his own illness in that way. He said that he accepted too many disciples who didn't follow the vows which they made. And because of that, he said he got reactions. Prabhupada said that. So that's one reason why people get sick. You could say it's the reactions of their disciples or people who are dependent on them. Just like in a family, mother and father are responsible for the children. And the children do anything, then mother and father, they also take the reactions for it. So we cannot always say it's just the result of offenses. We're born in countries also, each country has also karma. And there are different sinful activities performed in different countries. And people living in these countries, they also take some of the karma for the sins of the country. Just like they may kill many cows, or they may build bombs, and they may go to war and fight other nations. The people are responsible. The people have to share in the karma for that. Just like the ruler will take 1/6 of the karma of the country. But all the individuals, they'll also take some portion, some share of the karma, everyone. We share karma for the country, we share karma for the family, we share karma, you work in a job, in a company or something, and maybe there's company are doing things which are not very good, you have to share in that because you're earning, you're getting salary, you're taking money from, so you take some karma. So karma is a very complex thing. Not only do we have karma from this life, we have karma from previous lives also. And sometimes the karma from previous lives will come on us. It's not that only karma is from this life. We have karma from the past. And this adds up to so different things like our psychophysical nature. The body is the result of our karma. When someone has a healthy, strong body, they don't suffer much disease and they live a very long life. And someone else, their whole life can be sick. You know, from the time they're born, they can just be suffering different illnesses one after another. It's some, you could say, karmic thing. Karmic means when we do acts against the scriptures. So acts against the scriptures, you described it, you say offenses. Yeah, you could say it like, you could say offenses, but it's offenses against the laws, against Krishna, because we're disobeying his instruction. Lord Krishna has given us the Vedas, he's given us instructions, what we're supposed to do. And if we don't follow, then we get reactions, right? If we do things like meat eating and intoxication and gambling and illicit connections with the other sex, then we get reactions. And we could say this is due to our offenses because we disobeyed the principles. We went against the rules and regulations, which are there for civilized people. So we're meant to be civilized. We're meant to follow the scriptures. Is that all right, Sri Devi?
Thank you very much, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much.
So we're going to chant Hare Krishna now. Everyone ready? Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasati Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna. So we hope everything will go well. Vaishnavi.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj, for your blessing.
Yeah, we pray you can have a nice festival there.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
So we'll be in touch.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
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 Hare Krishna. Thank you, Guru
Thank you all
Maharaj.
devotees. Thank you so much. We will meet next week.
Thank you,
Thank
Ash.
you, Yuga
Thank you.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thanks, Yuna Mataji, Sridevi Mataji, Yashoda Mataji, and everybody. See you
Thank
next week.
you. Haribol, thank you.
Haribol,
Thank you
Hare
very
Krishna.
Hare
Thanks for the
Krishna.
wonderful program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji.
And take care of your health, Mataji. Please
Okay.
don't worry,
Yeah.
Mataji. You should
Wishing
be
you,
fine, I think.
wishing you a very nice program and happy
Thank
preaching.
you, Mataji. Yeah, we are just struggling. There are not many people to help me here. So I'm a bit actually very much tensed, but let's see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let us know next week.
All the best, Mataji. Vaishnavi
Thanks,
Vani.
Batma Mataji. Thank you so much.
Have a nice
Yeah.
rest, Vaishnavi Mataji. Let
Thanks,
Krishna
Yuna
mercy be
Mataji.
with you.
Oh,
Let
thank
Krishna
you,
mercy be
Mataji.
with you.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji. I'll update
Goodbye.
all of you after the program. So take
Yes.
care. Hare Krishna. Bye.
Send
Bye.
photo. Send photo.
Yeah, I send photo.
Bye.
Bye. Hare Krishna.